The gate that shouldn't be closed. The gate standoff. Pamela's voice snapped before Maya even touched the gate. Pamela, sharp, cold, stop right there. This viewing isn't for everyone. Maya froze. Her heels had barely hit the sidewalk. But the realtor was already blocking the path. Clipboard held like a shield. Maya, steady, calm, I have a noon appointment. Hastings property. My name's Maya Johnson. Pamela's eyes flicked to Maya's tailored suit. Then lingered on her skin. She smirked, polite, but cutting. Pamela, low, then there must be some mistake. We don't usually schedule unverified buyers. Maya raised an eyebrow. Maya, unverified? I have the confirmation email right here. Pamela didn't even glance at the phone Maya held out. Instead, she leaned closer, voice dropping just enough for only Maya to hear. Pamela, whispering, look, I'll save you the embarrassment. This isn't the kind of neighborhood that fits everyone. Maya's jaw tightened. The gate stayed shut. And across the street, two neighbors slowed their walk, watching. Whispering. The air wasn't just tense. It was dangerous. The brush off. The tension didn't break. The air felt heavy, like every second was daring Maya to leave. Pamela adjusted her blazer, her eyes darting to the neighbors still lingering across the street. Their phones were still out. Watching. Recording. Whispering. But her voice, when she turned back to Maya, was honey-coated again. Pamela, sugary sweet. You know, Ms. Johnson, there must be some confusion. These viewings are exclusive. Usually reserved for pre-approved buyers with documented portfolios. Maya tilted her head, her tone calm but sharp. Maya. And I am one of those buyers. Approved. Scheduled. On time. She held up her phone again, the confirmation email glowing on the screen. Pamela didn't even glance at it. Instead, she took a small step closer, lowering her voice so only Maya could hear. Pamela, whispering. Listen. I'm just trying to save you some trouble. This neighborhood has standards. Sometimes it's better to avoid wasting time where things don't always work out. Maya's expression didn't change. But her grip on the folder in her hand tightened. Maya, steady. My money is as green as anyone's, Pamela. So open the gate. Or I'll open this conversation with Mr. Hastings instead. Pamela's eyes flickered, panic, just for a second, before she plastered on another fake smile. Pamela. Oh, no need for that. I'm sure we can reschedule something, when it's more convenient. Maya, calm, cutting. It's noon. This is the time you set. If you think I'm leaving, think again. Across the street, one of the neighbors murmured to the other. Neighbor 1, whispering she's really not letting her in. Neighbor 2, looks like it. She does this all the time. The phone stayed pointed at the gate. Every second, Pamela's face grew tighter. And Maya? She didn't move an inch. Not forward. Not back. Just stood there, calm, composed, unshaken. While Pamela's polite mask began to crack. Caught in the act. Pamela shifted on her heels, her clipboard pressed so tightly to her chest it almost looked like armor. Across the street, the neighbors weren't pretending anymore. Their phones were out. Recording. Every word. Every movement. Pamela noticed. Her face stiffened, her voice dropping to a hiss meant only for Maya. Pamela, whispering. They have no idea what's going on. Put your phone away and just leave quietly. You don't want to make a scene. Maya didn't flinch. Her calm stare didn't break. Maya, steady. A scene? You mean the scene you're making by blocking a scheduled buyer from a showing? Pamela's jaw tightened. She glanced at the neighbors, forced a smile, then turned back to Maya with teeth clenched beneath it. Pamela, low. You really don't understand how these neighborhoods work, do you? It's not just about the money. It's about the right kind of fit. One of the neighbors raised his phone higher, clearly catching Pamela's words. Pamela's eyes flicked toward him, panic flashing for just a moment. Pamela, snapping. Put that phone down. You don't know what you're recording. The neighbor smirked. Didn't stop. Pamela turned back to Maya, trying to regain her control. Pamela, hissing. This is a misunderstanding. Why don't you give me your details, and I'll contact you if we can find a better property. Something more suitable. Maya didn't move. Didn't blink. Maya, calm, but with an edge. Pamela. Either you open this gate, or I'll make one phone call that makes you wish you had. Pamela's polite facade wavered again. Her thumb hovered over her phone screen, not on her schedule, but a text she was typing furiously, her hands trembling just enough for Maya to notice. Across the street, another whisper carried. Neighbor 1, she's texting someone, probably the owner. She knows she's in trouble. Neighbor 2, good. It's about time someone filmed this. Pamela straightened, plastering a new fake smile, but her voice had a crack in it now. Pamela, forced cheer. Of course, Ms. Johnson. Let me just confirm a few things before we proceed. But Maya's phone was already in her hand. Her thumb hovered over a single name in her contacts. And Pamela's eyes, for the first time, showed real fear. The silent threat. Pamela's smile was still there. But her hands gave her away. The clipboard trembled. Her thumb tapped her phone screen like a nervous tick. Across the street, the two neighbors had stopped whispering. They were fully watching now. Their phones angled just enough to catch every second. Maya noticed them. But she didn't speak. Didn't even look at Pamela directly. She just stood still. Her shoulders squared. Her breathing even. Like a statue carved from quiet confidence. Pamela finally broke the silence. Pamela, too sweet, voice shaking. Ms. Johnson, there's no need to escalate this. I'm sure we can work something out. Perhaps schedule you for another property? Something a little more fitting? Maya's eyes flicked up, meeting hers for the first time since Pamela started talking. No anger. No raised voice. Just an unblinking stare. Maya, calm, precise. Fitting? You mean one where people like me don't ruin the street view? Pamela's breath hitched. She forced a laugh, hollow, brittle. Pamela, quickly. Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. I just think this neighborhood values a certain presentation. We don't want misunderstandings with the board. Maya, cutting in, softly. Then let me make it clear. I'm not leaving. And if you don't open this gate, I'll call Mr. Hastings myself. Pamela's mask cracked, just for a heartbeat. Her polite smile faltered. Her grip on the clipboard tightened so hard her knuckles whitened. Across the street, one neighbor whispered just loud enough to carry. Neighbor 1, she's done for. Hastings doesn't play with this stuff. Neighbor 2, watch, she's about to fold. Pamela's eyes darted toward them. Her voice dropped, sharp and desperate. Pamela, hissing. Do you really want this kind of scene recorded? It'll only make things messy for you. Sometimes it's better to walk away quietly. Maya finally moved. Not toward the gate. Not toward Pamela. She pulled her phone from her pocket, unlocked it, and hovered over a single name. Her thumb didn't press call yet. She just let Pamela see it. The name glowed on the screen, Robert Hastings. Pamela's throat went dry. Her fake smile vanished completely. For the first time. It wasn't Maya who felt like an outsider. It was Pamela. The name that shakes her. The name on Maya's phone screen glowed like a warning light. Robert Hastings. Pamela's eyes locked on it. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For years, she'd represented his properties. He trusted her to keep things exclusive. to handpick buyers who would fit the image. But now, that same man was the one name she did not want to hear, especially from the woman she'd just tried to send away. Maya didn't press call. Not yet. She just held the phone casually, her thumb hovering. Her face was calm, but her stillness carried weight. A quiet power Pamela couldn't ignore. Across the street, one of the neighbors muttered. Neighbor 1, low, she's actually calling Hastings. Neighbor 2, good. Let him see what his golden realtor's really like. Pamela's breath caught. She finally spoke, her tone almost pleading now. Pamela, soft, forced. Ms. Johnson, there's no need to bother Mr. Hastings. I'm sure we can resolve this. Why don't you step inside now? I'll personally give you the tour. Maya's eyebrow arched slightly. Maya, even. 5 minutes ago, you said this wasn't the kind of neighborhood for me. Now, suddenly, I'm welcome? Pamela's fake smile twitched. Pamela. I misspoke. Things came out wrong. I just want to make sure we're both comfortable. Maya's thumb moved. She pressed call. Pamela's face drained of color. The ringing felt loud, each tone stretching the air tighter. Then, a click. A deep, commanding voice answered. Robert Hastings, on phone. Ms. Johnson. I was just about to head your way. Is there an issue at the property? Maya glanced at Pamela, who now stood rigid, panic written all over her face. Maya, calm, clear. Yes, Mr. Hastings. I'm here for our noon appointment. But your realtor says I can't come in. There was a pause on the line. Quiet. Heavy. Pamela's eyes darted everywhere, the neighbors, Maya, the gate. Like she was searching for a way out. Robert's voice finally broke the silence. Robert Hastings. Stay right where you are. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Click. Maya slid her phone back into her pocket, still calm. Pamela's breathing quickened, her fingers gripping the gate latch like it could save her. Across the street, the neighbors exchanged knowing looks. Phone still recording. Still waiting. Pamela whispered to herself, barely audible. Pamela, under breath. Not today, not like this. 5 minutes of fear. The phone call was over. But the air felt heavier than before. Pamela's fingers trembled on the cold metal of the gate. Her polished nails tapped against it in a nervous rhythm. A rhythm she couldn't stop. Across the street, the two neighbors whispered again. But this time they didn't bother hiding their voices. Neighbor 1, muted laugh. She's sweating. Wonder if she knows she's about to get chewed out. Neighbor 2. Oh, she knows. Look at her face. Pamela's head jerked toward them. Pamela, snapping. Mind your business. The neighbors didn't move. Didn't even lower their phones. If anything, they zoomed in. Maya still hadn't spoken. She stood with one hand resting lightly on her folder. Her breathing steady, her gaze fixed on the glossy black street. She didn't need to gloat. Didn't need to argue. Her silence, her composure, was louder than any shouting. Pamela tried again, her voice cracking just slightly. Pamela, fake cheer, faltering. Look, Ms. Johnson, I truly apologize for the confusion earlier. Why don't we just step inside? I can get you some water, start the showing before Mr. Hastings arrives? Maya's head turned toward her, her voice smooth but cutting. Maya, calm, low. No, Pamela. We'll wait for him. Together. Pamela's throat tightened. Her eyes darted up the street, searching for the distant shape of Robert Hastings' car. It wasn't there yet. But the idea of him approaching was already unraveling her. She muttered under her breath again, her hand gripping the clipboard so tight her knuckles went white. Pamela, whispering. Not today, not after last month. The neighbors heard her. One of them stepped a little closer, filming as they called out. Neighbor 1, mocking. What's wrong, Pam? Another mix-up? Or just another one of your standards? Pamela's jaw locked. For the first time, her polished, confident realtor persona cracked completely. She turned her back, facing the house, whispering to herself again. Pamela, muttering. Just 5 more minutes, hold it together. But every second felt longer than the last. The breeze slowed. The street hushed. And far in the distance, the faint hum of a luxury engine began to rise. Pamela froze. Her eyes snapped up the street. Robert Hastings was coming. The car in the distance. The faint hum grew louder. Pamela's head whipped toward the sound. A black luxury car, sleek and polished, was gliding down the street. Every breath she took felt shallow. Every muscle in her body tightened, like bracing for a storm. Maya stayed perfectly still. Her posture relaxed, as if she already knew what was coming, and had no reason to move. Across the street, the neighbors perked up, cameras steady. Neighbor 1, under breath. Here we go. Neighbor 2, whispering. Hastings himself. She's done. Pamela's throat bobbed as she swallowed. Her polished, confident facade, the blazer, the clipboard, the professional smile. It all felt like paper armor now. She muttered under her breath, barely audible. Pamela, whispering. Please don't let him be angry. Please don't. The hum grew into a smooth purr as the car slowed in front of the gate. Its tinted window lowered just slightly. Enough for Pamela to see the outline of the man inside. Her breath hitched. She turned toward Maya, voice hushed and hurried. Pamela, pleading. Listen, Ms. Johnson, maybe we can smooth this over before he steps out. I can tell him you left, say there was a mix-up. Maya didn't even look at her. Her gaze stayed on the car. Maya, steady. I told him I'd wait. And I don't break promises. Pamela's fingers dug into her clipboard. Her eyes darted back to the car, watching the driver's door open. The black dress shoe hit the pavement first. Then another. Polished. Deliberate. The door closed with a low thud. Pamela's knees almost buckled as the man himself stepped into the sunlight. Robert Hastings. Tall. Composed. Tailored charcoal suit. No expression on his face, which was somehow worse than anger. Pamela's forced smile twitched like a frayed wire. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. The street went silent. The man behind the silence. Robert Hastings didn't rush. Every step he took toward the gate was deliberate, each one echoing in Pamela's chest like a drumbeat. He stopped just a few feet from the 2 women. His eyes shifted, first to Maya, then to Pamela. And then, silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. The kind that forces every breath to feel louder than it should. Pamela swallowed hard. Her voice, when it finally came, was tight and brittle. Pamela, forced cheer. Mr. Hastings, what a surprise. I was just about to start the showing. Ms. Johnson arrived a bit early and Robert raised a single hand. Not a full gesture. Just enough to make her stop talking instantly. His voice was calm. Too calm. Robert Hastings. She's right on time. And you know it. Pamela's lips pressed into a thin line. Her polished realtor mask threatened to crumble. Robert turned his gaze to Maya, his tone shifting, respectful, steady. Robert Hastings. Ms. Johnson. I apologize for the delay. I understand you've been waiting. Maya inclined her head slightly. Maya, calm. Not a problem, Mr. Hastings. I figured you'd want to hear this firsthand. Robert's jaw flexed. His eyes slid back to Pamela. Cold, unblinking. Across the street, the neighbors whispered, barely hiding their smirks. Neighbor 1, whispering. She's about to get roasted. Neighbor 2. Watch this. Hastings doesn't raise his voice, but he doesn't need to. Pamela's breathing hitched. She clutched her clipboard like it could shield her from what was coming. Robert finally spoke again. His tone still level but with an edge that made Pamela's stomach turn. Robert Hastings. Open the gate. Now. Pamela fumbled with the latch, her manicured nails slipping against the metal. The clink of the lock sounded louder than anything on the street. The gate opens. Barely. Pamela's nails scraped against the metal as she fumbled with the lock. Each clink of the latch felt louder than the hum of a quiet street. She forced a laugh. The kind that doesn't reach the eyes. Pamela, shaky, overly polite. Of course, Mr. Hastings. Just a minor mix-up. You know how these schedules can get crossed sometimes. Robert didn't answer. He just watched her. Still. Expressionless. Pamela cleared her throat, trying again. Pamela, quickly. I was only trying to protect the property. You never know who might wander in. Robert's gaze sharpened, his voice cutting through her excuse like glass. Robert Hastings, calm, cold. Ms. Johnson had a confirmed appointment. She didn't wander in. You turned her away. Pamela's mouth opened, then closed. No excuse came this time. Across the street, the neighbors shifted closer, phones still raised. One of them whispered, loud enough for Pamela to hear. Neighbor 1, smirking. She's choking. First time Hastings has had to clean up her mess in public. Pamela's jaw tightened. Her fingers finally caught the latch, the gate creaking as it opened just enough for Maya and Robert to step through. Robert gestured for Maya to go first. Robert Hastings, to Maya. Please. After you. Maya walked forward calmly, her heels clicking softly against the stone path. Pamela tried to compose herself, pasting on another brittle smile as she followed behind them. But her hands wouldn't stop trembling. Robert glanced at her once as they entered the courtyard. Robert Hastings, low, almost a warning. We'll discuss this, after. Pamela's smile faltered. For the first time all day, she didn't try to speak. The tour that feels like a trial. The gate shut softly behind them. The courtyard was quiet, only the soft rustle of leaves breaking the silence. Pamela forced herself to walk a step ahead, gesturing toward the elegant entryway. Her smile was back, polished, mechanical, like a mask she couldn't afford to drop. Pamela, overly bright. And here we have the main walkway, recently redone with imported stone, of course. You'll love the craftsmanship, Ms. Johnson. Maya followed silently, her gaze taking in the details. She didn't respond, didn't nod, just observed. Behind them, Robert's footsteps were slow, measured. He didn't interrupt, didn't speak. But his presence was a weight Pamela could feel with every breath. Pamela tried again, her voice wobbling despite her fake enthusiasm. Pamela. This property is truly special. The neighbors are very particular, very private. It's important for buyers to understand the, community expectations here. She risked a glance at Robert. His face stayed unreadable. But the slightest tilt of his head made her throat tighten. Maya finally spoke, her tone soft but edged. Maya, casual, pointed. Community expectations. Like being turned away at the gate because someone thinks you don't belong? Pamela froze mid-step. Her grip on the clipboard tightened until it creaked. Pamela, quickly, forced laugh. Oh, that was a misunderstanding, of course. I only meant to. Robert's voice cut in. Quiet. Calm. But with the weight of a gavel. Robert Hastings. Pamela. Continue the tour. Save your explanations for later. Pamela's mouth snapped shut. She nodded stiffly, her smile cracking for a second before snapping back in place. As they stepped into the grand foyer, Maya's eyes lingered on the high ceilings and polished wood floors. Her face was calm, but inside, her thoughts flickered. This was supposed to be a dream home visit. Instead, it felt like walking through someone else's test. One Pamela was failing by the second. Robert walked a little closer to Maya, his voice low but steady. Robert Hastings, quietly, to Maya. You'll see the property as planned. Then, I'll deal with her. Pamela heard it. She didn't turn around, but her knuckles turned white on her clipboard. Questions she can't answer. The grand foyer echoed with the soft sound of footsteps. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, glinting on the polished wooden floors. Pamela forced herself to keep her voice upbeat, though every word felt heavier, harder to push out. Pamela, strained cheer. As you can see, the property boasts original crown molding, a formal dining room, and... Maya's voice cut in, calm but firm. Maya, smoothly. What's the average closing time for homes in this neighborhood? And how many black buyers have closed here in the last 5 years? Pamela froze mid-step. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She forced a tight smile. Pamela, hesitant. Oh, I don't track demographics specifically. We focus on suitability and, compatibility with the area. Maya tilted her head slightly. Maya, low, pointed. Compatibility. Like locking the gate for certain buyers? Pamela's breath hitched. She looked to Robert, desperate for backup. But Robert said nothing. His face was calm, unreadable, as he leaned casually against the banister. Watching. Pamela swallowed hard, trying to push the conversation forward. Pamela, quickly. The kitchen features state-of-the-art appliances, imported marble, and... Maya, interrupting again. And how does the neighborhood board review new buyers? Is it written policy, or is it just whoever the realtor prefers to let through the gate? The silence after that question was suffocating. Pamela's smile faltered completely. Her hand gripped the edge of her clipboard so tightly, her knuckles turned pale. Across the foyer, Robert finally spoke, his tone quiet but razor-sharp. Robert Hastings. Answer her question. Pamela turned slowly, her eyes darting between Maya and Robert. Pamela, stammering. I was only trying to maintain the neighborhood's reputation. Some buyers don't align with the image. Robert's voice cut her off. Low. Final. Robert Hastings. Not your decision to make. Pamela's face drained of color. Her carefully curated mask, the charm, the authority, the confidence, was starting to crumble completely. The slow unraveling. Pamela's heels clicked nervously on the marble as they moved into the open-concept kitchen. The room gleamed, spotless countertops, chrome fixtures, sunlight flooding through oversized windows. But Pamela's voice was tight, shaky beneath the forced enthusiasm. Pamela, strained cheer. As you can see, the kitchen offers premium features, Wolf appliances, dual ovens, marble countertops imported from Italy. Maya trailed her fingers lightly across the cool marble surface, her gaze calm and unhurried. Maya, softly, without looking up. And how many buyers have you personally turned away before they even saw the kitchen? Pamela froze. The clipboard trembled in her hands. Pamela, quickly, defensive. I don't turn people away. Sometimes there are misunderstandings about appointments. I was only... Maya, interrupting, still calm. Misunderstandings like the one at the gate today? Pamela's breath caught. Her eyes darted to Robert, desperate. But he just stood silently by the far counter, his posture relaxed, his expression unreadable. Maya's voice remained level, each question like a quiet blade. Maya. Tell me, Pamela. When you said the neighborhood has standards, what exactly did you mean? Pamela swallowed hard. Her polished smile flickered like a dying light. Pamela, stammering. I only meant that buyers here appreciate a certain type of community. It's about protecting the property values, the reputation. Robert's voice finally cut in. soft, cold. Every syllable deliberate. Robert Hastings. Reputation or prejudice? The word hung in the air, heavy as stone. Pamela's lips parted, but no sound came. Her mask, the one she'd worn for years, was crumbling faster than she could hold it together. Maya didn't speak again. She didn't need to. The silence itself was enough to make Pamela's hands shake. Excuses in the marble kitchen. Pamela's clipboard clattered softly against the marble counter as her grip faltered. She quickly straightened it, forcing her voice into something that sounded like confidence, but cracked at the edges. Pamela, quickly, rushing. Mr. Hastings, Ms. Johnson, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I was only trying to protect the property. We've had strangers wandering into showings before, and... Maya's calm voice sliced through her excuse like glass. Maya, evenly. Strangers. With scheduled confirmations? Pamela flinched. Pamela, grasping. I didn't recognize her name on the list at first, and I thought maybe... Maya, soft, cutting. Maybe what, Pamela? Pamela's mouth hung open. Her hands fidgeted with the clipboard, her eyes darting everywhere but at Maya's face. Robert finally shifted his weight, his presence commanding the room. His tone was calm, but each word landed like a weight. Robert Hastings. Pamela. You've worked with me for 7 years. You know how I operate. And you know who I approve for viewings. Pamela nodded quickly, trying to smile. Pamela, fast. Of course, Robert, Mr. Hastings, I just wanted to make sure everything was secure, and... Robert Hastings, interrupting, calm but firm. You wanted to make sure someone like Ms. Johnson didn't step through that gate. Pamela froze. Her fake smile evaporated. Across the island, Maya's posture remained steady. She didn't smirk. Didn't gloat. She simply watched, composed, her silence louder than any accusation. Pamela's voice dropped, desperate now. Pamela, soft, pleading. Robert, please. You know I only ever act in the best interest of the properties. The neighbors, they expect a certain image. Robert's jaw flexed. His voice dropped lower, each word deliberate. Robert Hastings. Pamela. The only image you need to worry about right now is your own. And it's crumbling. Pamela's breath caught. Her clipboard slipped slightly in her hands, the edge scraping against the counter with a faint squeal. Pamela's last card. Pamela's breath came shallow, her polished exterior slipping like loose threads. She set the clipboard down carefully, resting her palms on the marble island as though grounding herself. Her voice dropping to something softer, almost pleading. Pamela, gentle, desperate. Robert, you know I've been loyal to you for years. Every property, every client. I've done everything to protect your brand. The Hastings name. Robert's gaze stayed fixed on her, unblinking. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Maya stood quietly by the wide kitchen windows, her reflection faint in the glass. She wasn't smiling. But there was a subtle steadiness in her eyes. The calm of someone who knows the tide is turning. Pamela tried again, her voice cracking slightly. Pamela, lower. These buyers, these neighborhoods, they expect a certain continuity. I only wanted to make sure we didn't upset anyone. Robert's head tilted slightly, his voice low but sharp. Robert Hastings. Upset anyone. By letting a qualified buyer through the gate? Pamela opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her fingers curled against the counter, her knuckles pale. Pamela, barely audible. I didn't mean any harm. I was just... Robert's tone cut across her words like a blade. Robert Hastings. You were just doing what you've always done, Pamela. Deciding who belongs and who doesn't. Without my permission. Pamela's breath hitched audibly. Her gaze darted between Robert and Maya, searching for some hint of sympathy. She found none. The kitchen was silent except for the faint ticking of the ornate clock above the archway. Every second stretched, pressing heavier on Pamela's chest. Robert finally straightened, his tone even but commanding. "Robert Hastings. Finish the tour. Then we'll discuss your future." Pamela swallowed hard, nodding quickly. Her smile twitched back into place. But it was hollow now. All nerves and no confidence. The tour turns on her. The group moved from the kitchen into the sunlit living room. High ceilings, wide windows, light spilling across the polished wood floors. Pamela's heels clicked as she led. Her smile carefully stitched back on. But her shoulders were stiff, her steps just a bit too fast. Pamela, bright, rehearsed. And here we have the main living area. Open floor plan, perfect for entertaining. Fireplaces fully restored, original to the property. Maya wandered a few steps ahead, her fingers tracing the smooth banister along the staircase. Her tone, when she spoke, was soft, but deliberate. "Maya," casually, "how many families have you turned away from homes like this? Before they even crossed the front door?" Pamela froze mid-sentence. Her hand tightened around the folder she carried. Knuckles pale again. Pamela, quickly, forcing a laugh. "Oh, Ms. Johnson, I think you're misunderstanding. I've never turned anyone away. Sometimes appointments get lost, or—" Maya, interrupting, calm but cutting. "Lost. Or filtered." Robert leaned casually against the archway leading into the hall, arms crossed. His silence was louder than either of their voices. Pamela tried again, voice lower, softer. "Pamela," pleading undertone. "Look, I only ever did what I thought would keep these properties appealing to the right buyers. It's about maintaining the value of—" Robert's voice cut through, quiet but final. "Robert Hastings. Value isn't the problem, Pamela. Your judgment is." Pamela's breath caught. She turned slightly toward him, hands clutching the folder like a lifeline. "Pamela, soft. Robert, please. I've worked for you for years. You know I always—" Robert Hastings, interrupting. "You've worked for me, yes. But today, you worked against me." The silence that followed pressed on Pamela's chest like a weight. The sound of a car passing outside was the only noise. A faint hum swallowed by the thick tension in the room. Pamela's voice shrank to a whisper, barely audible. "Pamela," under her breath. "This can't be happening." Robert's gaze stayed fixed on her, unblinking. Maya, still calm, watched from beside the window. Her expression steady. Neither smug nor forgiving, just present. Eyes through the glass. The living room's wide windows looked out onto the pristine street. And beyond the trimmed hedges. The two neighbors were still there. Phones up, recording. Pamela caught their reflections in the glass. Her chest tightened. Every time she inhaled, the air felt heavier, like the walls of the house themselves were pressing in. She turned back toward Maya, forcing another brittle smile. Pamela, soft, strained. "Ms. Johnson, perhaps we could finish this tour privately? The neighbors, they tend to gossip, and I wouldn't want anyone to misinterpret today's events." Maya's eyes met hers, calm, steady, unshaken. "Maya, even. Misinterpret? Or simply see?" Pamela's jaw tightened. She looked back toward the window, catching the faint glow of the phone screen still aimed their way. Robert finally moved, his slow steps deliberate as he crossed the room. He stood near the window, his presence alone making Pamela shift her weight like a child caught lying. Robert Hastings, quietly, without looking at Pamela. "They have every right to record. After all, you didn't mind having an audience at the gate." Pamela's mouth opened. But no excuse came. The faint sound of murmurs outside grew clearer through the glass. Neighbor 1, muffled. She's still squirming in there. Neighbor 2. This is going online the second it's over. Pamela turned, lowering her voice to Robert. Pamela, pleading whisper. Robert, please. If this gets out, I'll lose more than just your properties. I'll lose everything. Robert finally faced her. His tone still calm but firm enough to make the room feel colder. Robert Hastings. You should have thought about that before deciding who deserved to even see this house. Pamela's shoulders sagged. The weight of his words heavier than the stares from outside. The street becomes a stage. Robert moved toward the front door without haste. Each step slow and deliberate. He didn't look back at Pamela as he opened it. The soft creak of the heavy door echoed down the quiet street. The two neighbors, phones in hand, shifted closer instinctively. Pamela stayed frozen in the living room, hands clutching her clipboard so tightly her knuckles blanched. Her pulse thudded in her ears. Outside, Robert stepped down the front steps. His posture calm, his voice carrying just enough to reach the neighbors. Robert Hastings, measured, controlled. Afternoon. I understand there's been some confusion at the gate today. The neighbors exchanged glances. Phone still recording. Neighbor 1, calling out. Confusion? Looked more like someone was being blocked from a showing. Robert nodded once, slow. Robert Hastings. Yes. A qualified buyer, invited by me, was denied entry. I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen again. Pamela, still inside, could feel every word cutting through the walls like a blade. Her chest tightened as she heard the neighbors murmur to each other. Maya stepped quietly into the doorway. Her posture relaxed but steady. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence alone told the story the phones were capturing. Robert turned slightly toward the open door, his voice still level. Robert Hastings. Pamela, why don't you join us out here? Since this misunderstanding as witnesses, it's best we're all clear. Pamela's breath caught. Her heels clicked reluctantly as she crossed the foyer. Each step feeling like a march toward a firing squad. When she finally stepped outside, the soft hum of another neighbor's phone camera joined the air. 3 lenses now pointed their way. Robert's tone sharpened, still quiet, but with the weight of judgment. Robert Hastings. Everyone here deserves to know. Ms. Johnson had a confirmed appointment. She was turned away at the gate. That will not happen again, not to her. And not to anyone else I choose to do business with. Pamela's eyes darted to the neighbors' phones. Her lips trembled. For the first time all day, she didn't even try to fake a smile. Maya, still calm in the doorway, watched Pamela shrink beneath the weight of Robert's words. In the quiet, digital gaze of the street. Every word a shovel. Pamela stood frozen on the front steps. The late afternoon sun casting a harsh glow across her face. Her hands gripped the clipboard like a lifeline. But it couldn't shield her from the 3 phones now pointed in her direction. The silence stretched. Too long. Too heavy. Finally, she tried to speak, her voice soft, trembling at first. Pamela, hesitant. Look, I didn't mean for this to look the way it did. My job is to protect the integrity of these homes. Sometimes, people don't exactly fit the community's expectations. The murmurs outside grew louder. One of the neighbors let out a faint, disbelieving laugh. The sound sharpened the quiet air. Neighbor 1, calling out. Community expectations? You mean people who don't look like you? Pamela's face flushed. But she pressed on, voice rising, shaky. Pamela, defensive. That's not what I said. I have to make sure buyers won't disrupt the neighborhood's image. The board. Robert's voice sliced through, calm but commanding. Robert Hastings. The board doesn't hire you, Pamela. I do. And this isn't your property to gatekeep. Pamela's lips trembled. Her eyes darted between the neighbors' cameras. Maya's calm, steady presence in the doorway. And Robert's unblinking stare. She tried again, desperation creeping in. Pamela, pleading. Robert, I was just trying to prevent problems. You know how certain buyers can make other owners uneasy. That was it. The final mistake. The neighbors erupted in murmurs, their phones capturing every second. Neighbor 2, muttering to their phone. Got it on record. She's done. Robert's expression didn't change, but the silence around him thickened like a storm about to break. Maya's voice, calm, measured, finally joined the air. Maya, evenly. And what exactly makes me a problem, Pamela? Pamela froze. Her lips moved. But no sound came this time. The street. The cameras. The weight of every silent second. It all closed in around her. The last plea. Pamela's breath was shallow. Her clipboard trembled in her grip. The neighbors' phones hovered in the air, their faint red recording dots like glowing warnings. Her polished realtor voice was gone now. What came out next was raw, cracking with panic. Pamela, pleading, rushed. Robert, please. You know how much I've done for your properties. I've built your brand here. If this goes online, it'll ruin me. My reputation, my career. Robert's stare didn't soften. Not even slightly. The murmurs from the neighbors grew louder, each one tightening the noose Pamela had wrapped around herself. Neighbor 1, whispering to their phone. She's begging now. This is going everywhere. Pamela's eyes darted to Maya, searching for some ounce of sympathy. But all she found was calm, steady composure. Pamela, softer, almost whispering. Ms. Johnson. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. It was a misunderstanding, I swear. Please, tell him I was just. Maya's voice cut through. Quiet, steady, but with the sharpness Pamela had been dreading. Maya. You didn't offend me, Pamela. You tried to erase me. That's different. Pamela's breath caught in her throat. Her knees nearly buckled. Robert finally stepped forward, his shadow falling across the steps. His voice was low, measured, but every word carried the weight of a verdict. Robert Hastings. Pamela Hart. You've represented my properties for 7 years. That ends today. Pamela's lips parted in shock. But Robert's tone didn't pause. Robert Hastings, firm. Clear your listings. Your access is revoked. Effective immediately. The neighbors' phones caught every syllable, every flicker of panic on Pamela's face. And for the first time all day, Pamela had nothing left to say. The bitter exit. The silence after Robert's words lingered like a heavy cloud. Pamela stood frozen on the steps, her breath shallow, eyes darting between the neighbors' phones and Robert's unflinching stare. Then, something in her snapped. The polished smile was gone. The fake professionalism crumbled. Her voice came out sharp, bitter, almost hissing. Pamela, angry, shaking. Fine. Fire me. But don't pretend like this neighborhood wants her here either. The neighbors' murmurs spiked, their phones tilting closer to catch every word. Neighbor 1, under breath. She's digging her grave even deeper. Pamela's hand trembled as she pointed at Maya, who still stood calmly in the doorway. Pamela, snapping. People like you don't belong here. Not in these streets, not in these homes. I was just doing what everyone else is too polite to say. Robert's voice came next. Calm, steady, but with a finality that hit like a hammer. Robert Hastings. Enough. He stepped forward, his gaze sharp. Robert Hastings, cold. Pamela, leave. Now. Before I call security to escort you off this property. And the police to escort you off the street. Pamela's chest heaved, her anger flickering to fear as she glanced at the neighbor's cameras. She muttered under her breath as she turned, heels clacking against the stone steps. Pamela, low, bitter. This isn't over. Robert's voice followed her down the walkway, firm. Robert Hastings. Oh, it is. Completely. Pamela marched toward her car, the whispers of the neighbors trailing her like shadows. Neighbor 2, whispering to their phone. She's done. This video will end her career. Pamela's car door slammed shut. Her engine roared to life. But as she sped off, she couldn't outrun the sound of murmured voices, or the silent recording lights that would carry her downfall beyond this street. Behind the glass, Pamela's car sat at the end of the street. Engine running, windows rolled up. The polished realtor who had strutted onto the property just an hour ago was gone. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale. Her breath came in sharp bursts, fogging the glass as she muttered to herself. Pamela, under breath, frantic. 7 years. 7 years building this reputation. Gone. Just like that. Because of her. Her eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, catching the sight of Robert and Maya standing calmly near the open gate. The neighbors were still outside, phones down now but still watching. Still whispering. Pamela's jaw tightened. She pounded the steering wheel once, the sound muffled inside the car. Pamela, muttering. This isn't over. I'll fix this. Somehow. But even as she said it, her reflection in the mirror told the truth. Her career was slipping through her fingers, and there was no fix for what had just been recorded. She finally threw the car into gear. The tires crunched softly against the pavement as she pulled away, her face a mix of anger and fear. Not for what she'd done, but for the fallout waiting on the other side of that video. And as the black SUV disappeared around the corner, the street felt quieter, lighter, like the weight of her presence had finally lifted. Back by the gate, Robert turned to Maya, his tone shifting to something warmer, more deliberate. Robert Hastings. Now, shall we take a proper look at the house? Without interruptions. Maya nodded once, calm but resolute. The house tour, in a very different conversation, was about to begin. The street takes notice. The gate stayed open. The air felt lighter now, but not silent. Not with the neighbors still standing across the street. They weren't recording anymore. Their phones hung at their sides, but their eyes stayed on Maya. For the first time since she arrived, their whispers carried a different tone. Neighbor 1, calling softly. Hey! Miss Johnson, right? For what it's worth. She's been pulling that with people for years. You're just the first one to stand your ground. Maya turned slightly, her posture poised, her expression calm. Maya, even. Maybe the last, too. The neighbor gave a faint nod, their gaze flicking toward Robert, a man they all seemed to know held the real weight on this street. Robert stepped forward, his voice steady. Robert Hastings, to the neighbors. Pamela Hart no longer represents my properties. You can spread that however you like. The neighbors nodded, exchanging glances. For once, their whispers weren't filled with quiet judgment, but something closer to respect. Maya held their gaze for a moment longer, then turned back toward Robert, her voice low. Maya, let's finish the tour. I'd rather see the house than the stairs. Robert inclined his head slightly. Robert Hastings. Of course. And this time, you'll get the full experience. As it should have been from the start. The two of them stepped inside, the heavy door closing softly behind them. Outside, the neighbors lingered. Not whispering this time, but quietly nodding to each other. For the first time, The street felt like it might actually welcome someone new. The quiet inside. The heavy door shut behind them, muting the street outside. The quiet inside the house felt different now. Not tense. Not heavy. Just still. Maya took a slow breath, her fingers trailing across the smooth banister as they stepped into the foyer again. For the first time since she'd arrived, she let her guard drop just a little. Not because she felt safe, but because the fight outside was over. Her eyes lifted to the vaulted ceilings, the sunlight spilling through the tall windows. For a moment, she pictured it. Herself here. The sound of laughter echoing in these halls. A home, not just a house. But the echo of Pamela's words. Not for everyone, not her type. Still lingered faintly in her mind. She exhaled slowly, steadying herself. Robert's voice broke the quiet. Low and deliberate. Robert Hastings, gently. I owe you an apology, Ms. Johnson. You shouldn't have had to deal with any of that. Maya turned toward him, her expression calm but firm. Maya, it's not the first time I've had to deal with it. But it might be the first time someone with your weight stood behind me. Robert gave a faint nod. His gaze steady but not invasive. Robert Hastings. And there's a reason for that. I wanted you to see this property not just as another buyer, but as someone who understands what it means to make a statement by living here. Maya's brow arched slightly. But she didn't speak yet. She just waited. Robert's eyes drifted toward the tall windows, his tone deepening, like this was something he'd been holding for a while. Robert Hastings. When I bought into this neighborhood years ago, I was treated the same way Pamela treated you. Same words. Same stares. He turned back to Maya, his voice calm, but edged with memory. Robert Hastings. I built my life here anyway. Now, I want someone like you to do the same. The weight of his words hung in the quiet air. For the first time, the property felt less like a transaction, and more like a decision. The weight of his words. Maya stood still in the sunlit foyer, Robert's words hanging in the air like the echo of a closing door. I was treated the same way Pamela treated you. I built my life here anyway. Now, I want someone like you to do the same. Her gaze drifted upward, to the tall windows casting warm light across the polished wood. For a moment, she saw herself reflected faintly in the glass. Not the poised, guarded woman at the gate, but someone softer. Someone who could actually live here. She didn't speak at first. Not because she didn't have words, but because she needed to feel the shift inside herself. From defiance to something quieter, heavier. Her fingers traced the edge of the banister. The smooth would cool beneath her touch. Maya, quietly, almost to herself. I wasn't sure I wanted it anymore. Not after all that outside. Now, maybe I want it for more than just myself. Robert's eyes studied her carefully. His voice, when it came, was steady. But there was a subtle weight behind it. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. Robert Hastings. Then maybe we make sure you get it. On your terms. Maya's brow furrowed slightly, her gaze meeting his. Maya. What do you mean? Robert stepped closer, his tone firm but deliberate. Robert Hastings. Pamela's gone. And frankly, the way this street operates, I'd rather not put this property back into her network. If you want it, I'll sell it to you myself. Below asking. Maya blinked, the offer settling in like a ripple across still water. For a moment, she wasn't the woman on the other side of the gate anymore. She was the woman standing in the middle of a home, being told she belongs. What it would mean. Maya didn't answer Robert right away. She turned and began walking slowly through the house, each step echoing softly in the vast, open space. Her fingers trailed across the smooth wood of the dining table, the cold edge of the marble countertop in the kitchen, the warm sunlight pooling across the polished floor of the living room. It was beautiful. Yes. But that wasn't what she was thinking about. She paused by one of the tall windows, looking out at the street beyond the hedges. The neighbors were gone now. No cameras. No murmurs. Just the stillness of the street. The same street she'd been told she didn't belong on. Less than an hour ago. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass. Not angry. Not shaken. But aware. Maya, softly, to herself. Owning this house isn't just about a place to live. It's about making sure no one can tell me again where I don't belong. Robert's voice came from behind her. Low and deliberate. Robert Hastings. Then make it yours, Ms. Johnson. Not to prove a point, but because you deserve it. Maya turned toward him, her expression calm but resolute. Maya, I'll take it. On one condition. Robert tilted his head slightly. Robert Hastings. Name it. Maya, firm. Pamela doesn't get to touch another deal in this neighborhood again. Not after today. Robert gave a faint, approving nod. Robert Hastings. Consider it done. By the time you move in, she'll be nothing more than a memory. The video hits. Pamela sat in her parked car on the edge of town, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles ached. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Once. Twice. Then nonstop, a rapid chain of alerts. She hesitated, dread pooling in her chest before she finally picked it up. Her heart sank. The video. The one the neighbors filmed. It was everywhere. Clips of her voice. Sharp, cold. This isn't the kind of neighborhood for everyone. And people like you don't belong here. Already racking up thousands of shares. Hundreds of comments flooding in. Who is this woman? Fire her. Revoke her license, disgusting. Props to the buyer for standing her ground. Pamela scrolled faster, her breathing quickening with every word. Another notification popped up. A message from one of her biggest clients. She opened it. Message. Effective immediately, we're ending our partnership. Your services are no longer required. Pamela's stomach dropped. She threw her phone onto the seat, leaning back against the headrest. Her breath came in shaky bursts. Her once perfect posture collapsing into something smaller. Defeated. Outside, traffic moved on the road like nothing had happened. But Pamela knew. Her career, her carefully built image, was unraveling, one share at a time. Meanwhile, back at the Hastings property, Robert and Maya sat at the dining table. A fresh contract laid out between them. Robert glanced toward the door, his voice low but steady. Robert Hastings. By the time we're done here, Pamela Hart will be history. This house will be yours. Maya's eyes lingered on the paperwork, then lifted to meet Robert's. Maya, firm, calm. Let's make it official. The breaking point. Pamela's car sat in the dim glow of a gas station parking lot. Her blazer was crumpled on the passenger seat, her phone buzzing relentlessly beside it. Another alert. Then another. She didn't even look this time. Her head rested against the steering wheel, forehead pressed to the cool leather. Her breath was uneven. Half gasps, half angry mutters. Finally, she grabbed her phone. Her hands shook as she dialed a number. One of her last remaining clients. The call rang twice. Then a curt voice answered. Client, flat. Pamela. Saw the video. Don't bother calling again. The line went dead before she could speak. Pamela's grip tightened around the phone until it nearly slipped from her fingers. She stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Smudged makeup, wild eyes. A far cry from the polished, controlled realtor everyone once feared. Her voice cracked when she finally whispered to herself. Pamela, hoarse, shaking. It's over. Everything, gone. Because of one showing. She reached for the ignition, but paused as another buzz lit up her phone screen. A local news outlet. The headline glared back at her. Realtor exposed for discrimination, video sparks outrage. Her stomach turned. Pamela shoved the phone face down and started the engine, driving off into the dark. But the glow of the notification stayed, reflecting faintly off the windshield like a warning she couldn't outrun. Back at the Hastings property, Maya's pen hovered over the line on the contract. Robert slid the papers toward her with a calm nod. Robert Hastings. Once you sign, this house is yours. And Pamela Hart? She'll never touch another deal here again. Maya took a breath, then pressed the pen to paper, each stroke of her signature feeling heavier than ink. It felt like closure. The empty house. Pamela's car pulled into the driveway of her own suburban home. The porch light flickered faintly, an irritating reminder she'd been too busy, too important, to ever bother fixing it. She killed the engine, but didn't move at first. Her hands rested on the wheel, still shaking. Inside the house, the windows glowed warmly, but there was no warmth waiting for her. Her husband was away. Her kids, grown and gone. The house felt like nothing more than walls and silence. Finally, she forced herself out, heels clicking on the pavement as she stumbled up the steps. Her phone buzzed again. She checked it, another headline. Pamela Hart, realtor under fire after viral video. Dozens of missed calls. Hundreds of messages. Her agency had emailed her. We're reviewing your position immediately. Please return your office keys by tomorrow. Pamela sank down onto the porch step, her breath catching. The clipboard, her badge of control, her weapon of choice, still sat on the passenger seat of her car. Forgotten. She buried her face in her hands. For the first time, the tears came. Not out of guilt. Not because she regretted her words, but because she knew. This wasn't just the end of a deal. It was the end of her career. Her standing. Her name. Inside, the warm light from her home flickered. Outside, the glow of her phone screen lit up again, illuminating the newsfeed she didn't dare scroll anymore. Pamela stayed there, silent, as the world outside her house kept watching and moving on without her. Meanwhile, at the Hastings property, Robert stood by the large dining table, watching as Maya signed the final line of the contract. Each stroke of the pen felt deliberate. A quiet statement, louder than anything Pamela had said that day. The last reflection. Pamela sat alone in her dimly lit kitchen, the faint hum of the refrigerator the only sound. Her phone lay on the counter, screen glowing with unread messages, news alerts, and missed calls. She didn't touch it. Didn't even look. Her hands were wrapped around a cold cup of tea, untouched since she made it. Across from her, on the wall, hung her framed license, her name in gold lettering beneath a spotless glass cover. The same license now hanging by a thread. The same name now plastered across headlines for all the wrong reasons. Her reflection in the glass was faint, but enough to catch. Puffy eyes. Smeared mascara. A woman who had built her image on control and confidence. Now sitting small and silent, with nothing left to control. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Pamela lowered her gaze. A slow, shaky exhale slipping through her lips. For the first time in years, she didn't feel powerful. She felt irrelevant. Meanwhile, miles away at the Hastings property, the heavy door closed gently behind Maya as she stepped back into the foyer. The air inside felt different now. Not heavy. Not foreign. It felt like hers. Robert stood by the dining table, the completed paperwork neatly stacked in front of him. His voice carried the calm weight of finality. Robert Hastings. Congratulations, Ms. Johnson. The house is officially yours. Maya looked around the vast space, the sunlight streaming across the polished floor. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Maya, quietly. Funny. An hour ago, I wasn't even allowed past the gate. 2 houses, 2 fates. Int. Hastings property, evening. Maya walked slowly through the now silent house, her heels clicking softly on the hardwood floors. The late sunlight streamed through the massive windows, casting golden lines across the walls. Her fingertips grazed the smooth banister as she climbed the stairs, pausing halfway to look back at the grand foyer below. For the first time, she allowed herself a full breath. Slow, steady, unguarded. Maya, softly, to herself. They told me I didn't belong. Now I own the key. She glanced down at the set of keys in her hand. The small, cool metal weight a quiet confirmation of everything she'd just endured. Int. Pamela's home, same time. Pamela sat slumped on her couch, the television glowing faintly in the background. The news anchor's voice floated through the room. News anchor, VO. A local realtor is facing backlash tonight after a viral video captured her denying a buyer access to a scheduled showing. Pamela stared blankly at the screen, the words landing like dull thuds. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. Another call she didn't have the courage to answer. She reached forward, grabbing the remote with a shaking hand, and turned off the TV. The silence felt louder than the broadcast. Back to Maya, Hastings property. Maya stepped into the master bedroom, the soft evening light filling the space. She opened the French doors leading to the balcony, the cool breeze brushing against her face. From here, she could see the street below. Quiet now. No neighbors watching. No gates barring her path. Maya, soft, resolute. This is mine now, and no one can take it away. The scene cut back one final time. Pamela, sitting alone in her dark living room, staring at her reflection in the black screen of her TV. One woman, holding the keys to a new chapter. The other, holding nothing at all. First night. The sky outside had shifted to twilight. Soft hues of deep blue and gold washed over the neighborhood. Inside the Hastings property, the only sounds were the faint creaks of the old floorboards, and Maya's slow, steady footsteps. She moved through each room in silence. The kitchen, the dining room, the grand living area, her fingers trailing over the smooth surfaces, as though she were learning the house by touch alone. In the living room, she paused by the tall windows. Beyond the hedges, the street was empty. No neighbors watching. No whispers. No gate closing in her face. She unlocked the front door herself, opening it wide. For a brief moment, she stood there, looking out at the quiet street with the faintest curve of a smile. Maya, softly, under her breath. This house will never be a gate for me. Only a door I own. She closed the door slowly. The sound of the latch a quiet, satisfying click. Upstairs, Maya stood in the doorway of the master bedroom. The room was dim, the last traces of daylight filtering through the sheer curtains. She set her small overnight bag by the dresser. Just a few essentials for tonight. It wasn't about moving in yet. It was about being here, in a space that now belonged to her. She sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress dipping softly beneath her. For the first time in hours, she let her shoulders relax completely. From outside, faint crickets began to sing as night fully settled. Maya lay back on the bed, her eyes tracing the ornate ceiling, her breathing slow and steady. For the first time since the gate confrontation, she wasn't thinking about Pamela. She wasn't thinking about the neighbors. She wasn't thinking about the video already spreading online. She was only thinking about this. A house that told her she didn't belong, now holding her like it always had. 2 mornings, 2 worlds. Int. Hastings property, early morning. Soft golden sunlight streamed through the sheer curtains of a master bedroom. The quiet hum of birds outside filtered through the open balcony doors. Maya stirred slowly, her eyes opening to the soft glow of a room that now felt like hers. No noise. No tension. Just the sound of a neighborhood waking up. This time without any barriers between her and it. She sat up, slipping on a robe, her bare feet brushing against the smooth wooden floor. In the kitchen downstairs, she brewed her first cup of coffee in the home. The aroma filled the air, warm and grounding. Int. Pamela's home, same time. A phone alarm blared in a dark bedroom. Pamela groaned, face buried in her pillow. Her phone, glowing on the nightstand, lit up with notifications, dozens of them. Reluctantly, she reached for it. The screen flashed headlines. Disgraced realtor faces industry investigation after viral video. Pamela heart dropped by multiple clients. Real estate board reviewing her license. Her inbox was flooded. Half were media outlets. The other half? Termination notices. She dropped the phone back onto the nightstand, her hand trembling. The once confident realtor now lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of her fall pressing down like a lead blanket. Back to Maya, Hastings property. Maya stood by the tall windows, coffee in hand, watching as the street slowly came alive. Neighbors walking their dogs, cars pulling out of pristine driveways. No one stared. No one whispered. Just another morning. She took a slow sip, her reflection faint in the glass. Maya, softly, to herself. I'm not just here. I belong here. The faintest smile crossed her lips. She turned from a window, ready to start her first full day in her new home. New roots, old ruins. Int. Hastings property, day. Maya opened the heavy front door to a soft knock. 2 neighbors, the same ones who had filmed the confrontation, stood on the walkway. No phones this time. Just polite smiles. Neighbor 1, gentle. We wanted to welcome you properly. And say, she won't be bothering anyone here again. Maya nodded once, accepting their subtle olive branch. Maya, calm. Appreciate it. Let's hope this street feels different now. The neighbors exchanged a faint glance, then offered a simple welcome basket before heading off. Maya stepped back into the house, closing the door softly behind her. For the first time, it felt like hers without any shadows lingering. Int. Pamela's home, same time. Pamela sat at her kitchen table, the curtains drawn, her laptop open to a storm of headlines. Every news outlet carried her name. Some played the video on loop. Others featured interviews with former clients now distancing themselves from her. Her phone rang. She didn't answer. Another call came through, this one from her own agency. Voicemail, automated. Pamela Hart, your license is officially under review. Please return all company property immediately. Pamela's fingers curled into fists on the table. She stared at her reflection in the dark screen of her laptop, her jaw tight, eyes rimmed red. For the first time in her career, there was nothing she could spin. No smile she could paste on to fix it. Back to Maya, Hastings property. The afternoon light shifted across the house as Maya unpacked the first few boxes. A framed photo of her parents, A stack of books. A potted plant by the window. She stood in the living room, looking around at the space slowly taking shape. Her posture was steady, her face calm, but there was a glimmer of quiet pride in her eyes. Maya, softly, to herself. This isn't just a house. It's a statement. Warm lights, cold shadows. Int. Hastings property, evening. The house glowed softly under warm lamps in the fading twilight outside. Maya set out glasses and a simple spread of food on the grand dining table. Two of her close friends entered, their voices light and warm, their laughter filling the house with a comfort it hadn't known yet. One friend glanced around the vast space, smiling. Friend, genuine. This place feels like it was always supposed to be yours. Maya exhaled slowly, a faint smile curving her lips. Maya, quietly. It almost wasn't. But now, it finally is. EXT, Pamela's home, same time. Pamela's driveway was crowded with flashing lights and distant voices. Two local news vans idled at the curb. Reporters lingered at the edge of her property, their microphones pointed toward her house. Through the drawn curtains, Pamela sat in darkness on her living room floor, her phone lighting up with another alert. She turned it face down without checking. The faint sound of a reporter's voice carried through the glass. Reporter, muffled. Pamela Hart has yet to issue a statement regarding the viral video that's ended her career. Pamela closed her eyes, her breathing shallow, the glow of the outside lights flashing faintly across her face. Back to Maya, Hastings property. The laughter of her friends echoed softly as they moved into the living room. Settling on the plush sofa, Maya looked around, the warm light spilling across the hardwood floors. The sound of her people here, the quiet absence of judgment or gates. She took a sip from her glass, her voice low, almost reflective. Maya, to herself, under her breath. This is how it was supposed to be all along. Her friends didn't hear her. But in that moment, Maya didn't need anyone to. Keys and consequences. Int. Hastings property, late night. The house was quiet again, the laughter of friends fading as the last car pulled away. Maya walked through the living room slowly, the soft lamplight casting warm shadows on the walls. In her hand, she held the keys, cool and solid in her palm. She paused by the tall windows, looking out at the calm, moonlit street. No stairs, no whispers, only stillness. She whispered softly, almost to herself. Maya, quiet, resolute. I didn't just buy a house. I claimed my place. She set the keys gently on the table, the faint clink echoing in the silent room. A sound that felt like closure. Int. Pamela's home, same time. Pamela sat in her kitchen, the overhead light harsh against the dark circles under her eyes. Her laptop was open to an email from the state licensing board. Email, on screen. Your real estate license is hereby suspended pending review. Please surrender all credentials immediately. Pamela stared at it, unblinking, as the final piece of her career slipped away. Her phone buzzed again. Another headline. Another blow. She didn't pick it up this time. Her reflection in the laptop screen stared back at her. A woman who had built a name on control, now with nothing left to hold on to. Back to Maya, Hastings property. Maya stood on the balcony outside the master bedroom, the cool night breeze brushing past her. Below, the quiet street stretched out, no longer hostile, no longer closed off. She looked up at the night sky, her shoulders finally at ease. Maya, softly. Home. She turned, closing the French doors behind her as she stepped inside. The curtains drifted with the night breeze for a moment, then settled, just as the lights in the house dimmed. The home, her home, stood silent, warm, and finally, hers.